I got this video monitor for 200 Australian dollars and I think it's great. It's the Feelworld F5 Pro video monitor, and today I'm going to share why I decided to purchase this particular model instead of more expensive video monitors, and why I think it's the perfect video monitor for me and my use case, despite 3 small problems, which I'll share throughout the course of the video. But let's start off by talking about the main feature, the screen itself. Now, when I was researching different monitors, I was a bit concerned that the Feelworld might be a lower quality monitor, especially since it's a lot cheaper and the brightness is 500 nits compared to something like a Shinobi Atmos, which has a screen brightness of 1000 nits. But I've actually found 500 nits is totally bright enough for what I use it for. I pretty much do all my shooting indoors, so I never have a problem with screen brightness. Obviously, it's not going to be ideal for constant outdoor use, but it will definitely get you by if you're doing the odd shoot outdoors, which I occasionally do. The pixel quality itself, I think, is really sharp. It's got great colors. Everything looks really vibrant and nice. And of course, having a really big 5.5-inch monitor compared to just my on-camera little preview screen, the extra size makes such a difference. Just being able to see more in my frame helps me to, I think, frame my shots better, make sure things are in focus properly, make sure my exposure looks right. All those sorts of things are just so much easier to do on a bigger monitor compared to a little on-camera preview monitor. Plus, this has a touch screen, so it's actually really handy for just quickly turning features on and off, as well as turning up and down screen brightness and the volume controls. Now, moving on to the build quality of the Feelworld F5 Pro, that's definitely, I think, where this monitor suffers a bit and why it's on the cheaper end of video monitors in general. The whole body itself is made from plastic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Atmos Shinobis are also made from plastic, but it does feel like the plastic's a little bit more on the cheaper side. I wouldn't want to drop it or anything like that, but it definitely still feels sturdy. Like it's not going to fall apart on me anytime soon. It doesn't feel like there's any loose parts or anything like that. And all the buttons feel sturdy and they don't wobble around or anything like that. I think the only part that does feel a little bit sketchy is the release button for the battery. It just sort of wobbles a little bit and doesn't feel that sturdy, but I haven't had any issues with it so far. And for the fact that you're only paying $200, I think it's totally fine. However, one thing that did come with the monitor itself, which is actually part of the monitor, is kind of the first thing that kind of bugs me a little bit about this package, which is the mounting arm that it comes on. The mounting arm is definitely not the world's greatest mounting arm, and it's made of aluminium, I think, or some sort of metal. So it's definitely sturdy and feels sturdy. But when I actually mount the monitor to the arm and then put it on top of my camera, it's actually a little bit wonky at times. It doesn't sit straight, so you have to adjust it to make sure it's level. And I've actually noticed on the thread where you attach the monitor to the arm, it's actually not that sturdy, and the little pins have popped out and scraped the plastic on the monitor itself, which isn't great. And it just makes me a little bit nervous when I go to rotate the monitor on the actual arm itself, because I just don't want to rip that plastic anymore or do any more damage to it. So I'm actually thinking about buying a separate mount that's not like this arm, that might just sit on top of the camera itself, just to replace this, just because it doesn't feel that great. So next up, let's talk about the inputs and the outputs on this screen. And they're actually really good, especially for what I need it for. They're more than fine. You've got your 12 volt DC in, a HDMI out, and a HDMI in. So if you wanted to, you could plug in this screen into another HDMI screen. On the bottom, it has an 8.4 volt DC out, headphone jack out, so you can monitor your audio levels, which is pretty handy, and then a DC in 5 volt type C. So you're supposed to be able to plug in an external power source through this USB-C port. Although I've had some issues, I've found that my power bank sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. I'm not sure if it's an issue with my power bank or if it's an issue with the monitor itself. But the main thing I think I would be using this for is for loading LUTs onto the monitor. In the box, the monitor comes with a little USB-C to USB-A adapter, which is actually really handy and a really nice thing to include, I thought. So you can load up your LUTs onto a USB stick or something like that. And if it's not USB-C, you can use the adapter to plug it straight into the monitor and then load up your LUTs from there. There's also a spot on the back of the monitor where you can mount accessories like wireless transmitters or LED lights, and then you can plug the power into the monitor itself. I don't have any use for it because I don't have those accessories. But if you want something that can connect to an accessory like that, then this is definitely a good thing. And then lastly, you've got a mount for the actual battery itself, which I mentioned earlier. I got a pack which came with the battery, and this is my second little issue with this monitor, which is that the battery life on the battery that comes with the monitor itself isn't great. I've found so far that it'll last me between 30 and 60 minutes, somewhere around there, so it's not a huge amount of runtime. You can of course plug in external power, and if you did want to as well, you could also buy just some extra backup batteries that you can have charged on the side, so when this one dies you can just swap it out, which will probably be the best option. But for me, it usually does the job. I don't usually record with this monitor for more than an hour at a time, so it would be nice if the battery life was a little bit better, but not a huge deal. Alright, so next up, let's talk about the actual video assist features on the monitor. And this is kind of one of the main reasons why I actually bought this monitor itself. And there's a huge list of different functions that this monitor can do. So if you want the full list, feel free to go and research it yourself. But I'm just going to go through my favorites and the ones that I use the most. So first up, one of the main things I wanted an external monitor for was actually false color. Now, if you're not that familiar with false color, it's a way of converting your image into colors, which helps you to expose your image correctly. And I've just noticed that I tend to get a little bit inconsistent results with just using my on-camera preview monitor. And so I thought, to help me get more consistent results, especially with skin tones, using false colors would probably be the way to go. So on the monitor, you can easily turn on and off false colors, which again can help you just quickly and easily make sure that your levels of exposure are correct. If you're interested more about false color, feel free to do a YouTube search, or let me know if you'd be interested in me doing a whole another video just on false color. Another one of my favorite video assist features is the ability to install LUTs, which I mentioned earlier. However, this leads me to my third and final issue with this monitor, which is that on the top you've got two function buttons which you can customize to all sorts of different video assist features. However, you can't customize them to turn on and off any of your LUTs, which is kind of annoying because it would be nice to be able to just quickly turn on and off the LUT to see what it would look like with and without. But you have to actually go into the menu system and turn it on and off there, which is a little bit inconvenient. So far it hasn't been a huge deal, but I wish that was mappable to the function buttons. And while we're on the topic of function buttons, let's just quickly go through them. So you've got F1 and F2, which you can customize to a whole range of different video assist features on the monitor. Then you've got a left and right key, which you can set to either the backlight brightness or the volume level. Then you've obviously got the menu button. You've got a couple of up and down buttons which are used to help navigate the menu, and then the power button itself. And I personally like having F1 as my false color button, so I can quickly turn on and off false color. And then I have F2 as image flip because I'm often shooting myself versus shooting B-roll, so it's nice to be able to flip the monitor around without having to take off the physical display itself. And lastly, my other favorite feature is just audio level monitoring on the bottom left hand corner, which is super handy to make sure that my audio levels are all good and I don't have to adjust anything. And by now, if it wasn't already really clear that I'm really happy that I bought this monitor, there's just a bunch of things which I kind of already touched on in terms of benefits of a video monitor. So if you think about buying one, I definitely recommend it. I think it helps you frame your shots better because you can see more, it helps you get better exposure. And the other benefit, which I hadn't really thought about until I actually started using it, is that the fact that I use it on a small Sony mirrorless camera. Normally the a6600, because it's so small, if I'm doing handheld B-roll shots, I can get quite a bit of shake just because it's such a small and light camera. But when I add the monitor, which has a little bit of extra weight in it, on top of the camera, plus add on the small rig top handle, it actually adds a bit of weight and makes the overall little rig a lot more stable just because it's got that extra weight. So if you're looking for a budget video monitor that's high quality and will do the job for you, I definitely think the Feelworld F5 Pro is a great way to go. I have no regrets buying this, especially for $200. It was pretty cheap compared to other options like the Atomos Shinobi for like $500. Don't forget to check out my creative tech playlist, and other than that, I hope you have an amazing day and I'll see you very soon in the next video.